Well, thank you. Again, so I know you're tight on time, so
All
I
good.
want to just kind of get right down to it and just start with, tell me why you decided to run for U.S. Senate.
Well, I decided to run for the U.S. Senate because there are a lot of challenges that go unaddressed, a lot of people's voices that don't get heard because out-of-touch politicians like Ron Johnson don't truly represent us as a state.
Your opponent is saying in lots of advertisements out there that you are too radical for Wisconsin. Where would you put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being progressive, 10 being moderate? Where do you see yourself?
Well, I'll tell you, it's really not even about that, right? Like, our campaign that we've built is one that encompasses the whole of not just the Democratic Party, but the whole of society. I have people to the left of me and to the right of me who are supporting me in this campaign, and that was the case even in the primary. It's about meeting people where they are. People have real challenges that can't be broken down to any specific faction of the party, and it's not about running to serve the party. It's not about running to serve any faction of a party. It's about to serve hardworking Wisconsinites who continue to be left behind.
Where would you put yourself on this scale?
I mean,
that 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I truly do. But honestly, this is a fight for hardworking people, hardworking Wisconsinites. That's what it comes down to. And I couldn't put myself in that sort of box.
Lieutenant Governor Barnes recently came under fire for his past social media posts addressing controversial topics on Twitter. This is the first time he's specifically addressed his past Twitter comments on camera.
In regards to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel article that came out earlier this week that talked a lot about your past Twitter statements, but some of those tweets that were pulled out from that article painted you as far left, some a little bit more radical. For example, you saying AOC is my president. Of course, we're talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. There's one where there's a picture of you holding a T-shirt saying abolish ICE. What would you say in regards to that article?
Yeah, what I'll say is, in terms of tweets, right, like these conversations aren't going to be nuanced, and Twitter's not the place to have real balanced discussion. A lot of things are sarcastic, whatever the case may be. But as I travel, nobody's asking about tweets. People are asking, how can my life get better, and why aren't politicians looking out for me? Why aren't politicians looking out for people like me? Why is it always the people at the top who get the most benefit? Why are families like mine continuing to be left behind? The idea that Ron Johnson went to the U.S. Senate, doubled his wealth, and is hell-bent on making everybody else's life worse. He orchestrated $215 million in tax deductions for 2 of his biggest donors while he voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. That's what people's concerns are.
Do you stand by those tweets?
I'll tell you, I mean, the tweets, like I said, whether it was like, we'll even use the one about the president, right? That's very clearly a sarcastic
where you said
tweet.
The president was a Russian spy.
Well, when I'm with the AOC, when I said that, it's like, that's clearly like a sarcasm. She mentioned chopping it up at a bodega. It felt personal, right? And even with this Russian spy, that was sarcasm. And that's just how these conversations, happen on Twitter, but they aren't always nuanced.
Just what happens on social media, people take very seriously.
I know. And when the thing, too, is like when there's no context, and I get it, I understand it. It's just, that's how that happens.
Just some of those views, again, are taken as more liberal, extreme left. Your political ads paint you as a modern, everyday man. These are two different sides. Who is the real Mandela Barnes?
I wouldn't say that. Like, honestly, like I make a lot of jokes. I think of myself as a pretty funny, jovial guy. But the thing is, going to the grocery store, it's actually me. Like, I live a pretty regular life, right? Like, I'm just a person that's from Wisconsin, graduated from Milwaukee Public Schools, and I enjoy what this state has to offer at every quarter, right? That's who I am. And the tweets and stuff, like, that's just all things that sometimes are out of context, or just people intentionally want to mislead. Like, Ron Johnson's a person who wants to distract from his actual record.
The current inflation rate, 8.2%, highest it's been in decades. A lot of people have pointed to stimulus packages, fiscal policy that have been passed since President Biden has been in office, saying it's a major contributing factor to where we are in inflation today. Knowing all that information, would you have supported those stimulus packages?
Well, let's talk about an issue like the stimulus package, because you'll get a Ron Johnson who will say that this is some kind of handout. Well, there was an opportunity to create 1,000 good-paying jobs here in the state of Wisconsin when Oshkosh Defense got the contract to build the next generation postal vehicles. His response was that we have enough jobs. He can't have it both ways. He can't sit and say people are lazy or they just want a handout when jobs were right there for us. And not saying that he could have, kept them here, but his response was that we have enough jobs. He does not understand what's going on. He does not truly respect people's economic condition. That's the worst part about this.
In August, the Biden-Harris administration announced a plan to cancel up to $20,000 in student loan debt. The U.S. Department of Education estimates that will cost an average of $30 billion a year over the next decade. An issue Senator Johnson said in an exclusive interview with NBC 26 was an effort for the Democratic Party to, quote, buy votes before the election.
Your opponent said that the Democratic Party is now the party of the elite. And this is an elitist movement by only giving debt forgiveness to a certain group of people, these college-educated people. How do you reconcile a policy that only benefits a certain number of college students?
One of the biggest impediments to entering the middle class is college affordability. Not being able to get the education that's needed for the jobs of today and the jobs of the future.
Do you think this will adversely affect your support in rural communities?
Well, I think it's important for us to, make sure that there are opportunities for technical college training, vocational training, all sorts of other avenues to help people get good paying jobs. And I'm proud of the support that we've given, like I said, our Main Streets with our Main Street Bounce Back program, or our rural prosperity initiatives that we've implemented. And we've been working hard here at the state level to make sure that all communities see some benefit, especially given the difficult last 3 years they've experienced.
Also under the microscope, rising crime in Wisconsin is a major issue in this campaign for both parties. Lieutenant Governor Barnes is facing criticism from opponents for his stance on criminal justice.
Crime is up in Milwaukee. This is your hometown. Homicide up 40% in 2022 over 2021 and over from 2020. It's going up and up and up. We're not just talking about violent crime like homicide, we're talking about property crime. And you've once said that you wanted to take money away from overbloated budgets in the police departments and put them towards community programming. How would that help improve crime?
Well, I think it's important that we do everything we can to prevent crime from happening in the first place. Things don't have to be this way because they weren't always this way. When my granddad moved to Milwaukee after World War II, there was an abundance of good paying jobs. I'm really glad we get to have this conversation. Communities that have opportunity, that have good employment, fully funded and well supported schools, they don't experience crime like other communities that have seen their communities disinvested in, or a lack of resources. This is about making sure we have a level playing field to give everybody a fair shot.
And you're not concerned taking money away from the police departments would actually hurt crime and putting them somewhere else?
This isn't even about that. This is about making sure, again, that we're doing everything we can, making that upfront investment. When I talk to law enforcement officers, sure, I supported budgets at the state level that increased funding for law enforcement. The American Rescue Plan allowed us to invest $100 million in the law enforcement and public safety initiative. So it's not about that. What it's about is also doing the work to make police officers' jobs easier.
The general election is Tuesday, November 8th. For more from our one-on-one with Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, or to watch our exclusive interview with his opponent, go to NBC26.com. In Green Bay, Nina Sperano, NBC 26.